Good evening, everyone. How are your starters looking this evening? So this is my starter, which I fed, it was about 10 o'clock this morning, no, 10:30 this morning, wasn't it? So as you can see, it's doubled in size. It was around about here on the jar, and now it's looking really bubbly. So you can see all those lovely bubbles in there. Hi everyone, so hi Miller, hi Rachel, we're back. I hope you've all got a glass of wine. There we go, here's my glass of wine, cheers. I hope your starters are looking as active as mine. There's obviously some really good bacteria around at the moment because, I don't think I've ever had as successful a starter as this one. So everybody that's got derivatives of this, you're very lucky. Right, so how do we proceed from here? So you've all fed your starter, so it's all lovely and active. So what I'm going to do now, you can do this one of two ways. So obviously if you're using your Thermomix to make dinner with, and you've only got one Thermomix, you may just want to make the leaven up in a bowl. So you can, of course, just put a bowl on top of your Thermomix, use it as a set of weighing scales and make your leaven up in a bowl, just weighing out the ingredients and stirring it together with a spatula. Hi, Nicola. Oh, hi, Belinda. Lots of people on, 16 of you, that's marvellous. I'm not using my Thermomix tonight, shock horror, my husband is cooking steak. So I'm going to make the leaven up in here and just leave it in the Thermomix overnight. So if you are all going to do it with me, I'm going to talk you through the process now. Hopefully you've seen it on the cheat sheet. But all we're going to do is just simply weigh out 150 grams of active starter. So here's my starter. It's going straight into the bowl. So this is called the leaven now. This is the second stage of making a sourdough. So about 150 grams. I've just overshot slightly, so I am going to take a little bit out. There we go, 153, that's fine. Right, so that's 150 grams in there. I'm going to reset my scales to 0, and then I'm going to add, it doesn't matter which order you do this in, let's get a clean spoon out. I'm going to put in 200 grams of my strong bread flour. Just hope that's the right one, yes. So let's weigh that straight in, 200 grams going in like this. Okay, so it's 205 grams, that'll be fine. Reset the scales and put in 105 grams. This is all on the sheet, by the way, 105 grams of the filtered water. There we are. Just overshot slightly, that won't matter. I'll just correct that tomorrow morning. So I've gone over by about 20 grams because clearly I wasn't watching my scales. So I'm just going to reduce the water tomorrow by 20 grams, if I remember. Right. So lid goes on, and I'm then simply going to go back to the home screen and program 10 seconds, speed 5. That's all I'm doing. So I'm just going to use the Thermomix to mix the starter, the flour and the water together. Now if you're doing it in a bowl, you could just do it with a spatula. It will do exactly the same job, but of course the Thermomix is there to do it for us. And it does it in 10 seconds. So let me just show you that. So that's what it looks like. There we are. Oh, it's really sticky. It's gone on my hands. So that's what we want to see. And then I'm just going to leave it. So that sits in there now. And so if you were doing it in a glass dish, you would just simply put a plate on the top of it and leave it. And we're going to leave it until about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that's all you need to do. So last thing that you have to do, because we've taken out 150 grams of starter, we need, so let's say Sue said 150 starter, 200 flour, 105 water, that's it. We need to feed back, so we want to feed back the same amount that we've taken out. So we've taken out 150, so I'm just going to feed back 75 grams of flour. We want to keep it in a 1-to-1 ratio. 75 grams of flour, so that goes straight back in, and 75 grams of water. So total of 150 grams fed straight back in. Okay, so let's just put that lid back on, and I'm just going to give it a stir round. And you'll be pleased to know, I think it was Katia that was a little bit upset by all the sourdough accumulating around the top of the jar. I actually just took a knife and scraped it all off from the top of my jar and put it straight back in again, which is absolutely fine. So my jar is now looking a little bit cleaner. So there we go, I've fed the starter and you'll see it's straight back again to that sort of real paste, thick paste consistency. Okay, there we go. I'll tidy it up in a little bit, but that's all I've done. So I've fed it straight back. So that starter will now ferment overnight and it'll be ready to use tomorrow. So if you wanted to, if you got into a pattern of making this every single day, you could just use this tomorrow straight away to go through the same process, okay? And in which case, because we're sort of 12 hours ahead, you would be then baking early morning on Sunday as opposed to tomorrow evening. So I'm going to leave that, but the other thing I wanted to show you is because I've got two, let's just come back over here, just wash my hands. I've got actually 2 loaves ready to bake here. Let me show you. So these were the 2 loaves that I started making this morning because I made my leaven overnight last night. And then if some of you watch my second live, you'll see me shape these loaves. So these are ready to bake now. So I thought I'd just show you how I deal with those. Now don't worry, because we're going to go through this step by step again tomorrow. But it's nice for you to see it in advance so that you know what you're doing. So they've been in the fridge now. I put them in the fridge at about 11 o'clock this morning. So they were in the fridge until about 6:30. And then I've taken them out and just brought them up to room temperature. Okay, so how long did you turn it on for? Do you mean how long did I mix the flour and the starch and the water together, Natasha? If so, I think I did it for 10 seconds at speed 5, just so that you mix everything together. That's all you want to do. Right, so I'm going to show you how I now bake my loaves. So let's just get you angled down to the top of my hob. Move that away. Right, I have got my Le Creuset, if I can find my oven gloves, which have been taken away. Let's go and get my oven gloves back. I've got my Le Creusets heating up in the oven already. So these are roasting hot. They've been in a hot oven at 250 degrees. Mine looks quite solid, is that right? Yeah, that'd be fine, because as it ferments overnight, Miller, the natural process of the fermentation will break it down into water. So it will be, mine's quite thick as well. So it will be a very, very different consistency tomorrow. Solid is absolutely fine. Right, these are 250 degrees. They're really hot. So a little chef's trick for you. Always leave an oven glove over the top of a lid that's been in a hot oven, so you know it's hot, because it's very easy to forget. Right, here is my banneton. Now, all I'm going to do is just work my hands round, or fingers rather, round the outside, just lifting it off gently. There we are. Okay, so that it's going to move. And then I'm going to tip it straight in. I'm phenomenally bad at tipping it in, and I always get it off centre, but I'm going to show you a little trick how you can overcome that in just a minute. So that goes straight in. Then I've got my lame, or my baker's. You can use a razor blade or a very sharp knife, and I'm just going to cut it 3 times. You can do pretty designs if you want, and then pop the lid back on with the oven gloves straight into the oven. Now, the other way, so here's my second pot. So because I make 2 loaves, I split mine, make 2 loaves. So I'm going to take my lid off, put my oven gloves over the top, so I know it's, because I know it's warm. Then I've got a little piece of baking paper here, baking parchment. I'm going to get my second loaf. I'm going to go round the edges with my fingers just to loosen it, because it will be a little bit sticky. Round just to loosen it. And then when I've loosened it all around, just gently with it, I'm going to plop it out onto the baking parchment, just like that. Cut my 3 slashes in the top. You can do pretty designs if you want to. And then just lift it. Let me just pull that so that you can see it. I'm just going to lift that into there and drop it in. All right, won't make any difference. It just helps you get it straight in the center. Lid on, and then in the oven. So they are going to bake now for about 30 minutes. I'm going to set the timer in a minute. Because they're quite small, because I always split my dough into 2 portions, they will take about 30 minutes. If you just make one loaf, it's going to possibly take a little bit longer. I would have a look at it after 30 minutes. And then you can always remove the lid and bake it for another 5-10 minutes just to darken that crust and make it super crunchy. Right, so that is the process start to finish, but don't worry too much about taking it all in because of course we're going to go through this step by step again tomorrow. So I'm just going to have a quick look at some of these questions now that are coming up just to make sure I've answered everything. Bear with me. Are you keeping up? Yes, are you keeping up? I can't keep up. Natasha, are you up to date? Have you added in your 150 gram starter and your 105 grams water and your 200 grams of flour? That's all you need to do, okay? You don't need to do anything else. And I'm just going to tidy that round the sides because, of course, some of the flour has kicked out. So that's all I've got. So I've got a really, really thick, stiff paste which will ferment overnight now and it will slacken down. It will be a completely different consistency tomorrow. All I need to do is just make sure I keep that lid on. So if you're doing it in a bowl, you just stir it all together and then put a saucer or a plate over the top. How long did I turn it on for? So I just mixed it for 10 seconds at speed 5. 5 seconds at speed 5 might do it, doesn't really matter. As long as it's all mixed together. Okay. Please a bit slower tomorrow. Okay, I'll try and do it slower. It's a Friday night. I have wine to drink. Mine looks quite solid. Is that right? Yes, that's fine. Good oven glove tip. Do you make 2 to freeze 1? Actually, Claire, I make 2. You can freeze 1. Absolutely. Although, I mean, if you freeze bread, it's still not quite the same as freshly baked bread. I make 2 because I usually just give 1 away, actually. And because I'm baking so regularly, I prefer to bake bread for fresh. These loaves cost me 20p each. And actually, the joy that it brings to neighbours when I give them a loaf is worth far more to me than 20p. So that's why I give 1 away. And I prefer to eat my sourdough fresh because there is nothing like sourdough fresh out of the oven. So what do you do with the starter now? Okay, so Sue, I don't know if you've missed that bit, but when I took the 150 grams out to put in my Thermomix to mix it together, I fed back the 150 grams. I added 75 grams flour and 75 grams water, mixed it together, and I will just leave that now to ferment and it will be ready if you want to bake more tomorrow and go through the same process. It will be ready to use to make a leaven with at about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So you can have one lot of dough being fermented in the fridge and another lot of dough you can have the leaven process starting, so that you can be on a continual loop. So if you do that, you will be baking the bread that we have started tonight. We'll be baking it tomorrow evening about 6 o'clock. If you start another loaf off tomorrow by making a leaven tomorrow morning, you will be baking on Sunday morning at about 6 or 7 in the morning. But of course, you don't have to do anything with it now you fed it. You can just pop it in the fridge and then just get it out again and reactivate it next week if you don't want to bake every day. Does it need to go in the fridge or stay in the thermi on the side? So what I would do is I would just get this going again, Jane. I would get it fermenting. I would look at the bubbles. So this will probably ferment by about 10 o'clock tonight. So I'll leave it at room temperature until about 10 o'clock tonight. If I'm not using it tomorrow, I will put it in the fridge and I will just keep it in the fridge until about 12 hours before I want to use it again. And then I will bring it out and then I will feed it. Okay. Can I put the starter straight in the fridge? I personally wouldn't. You can try it, but I like to let it ferment slightly before it goes into the fridge, just so that it gets going again. Love the oven glove tip, thanks, and enjoy the wine, yay. does it go in the fridge? Yeah, I think we've covered that. Where do I leave my dough in the Thermomix? And no, just leave it in a room temperature in the kitchen. It doesn't need to go in a warm place, it'll be absolutely fine. This stuff will still ferment in the fridge. As you'll find when you put the loaves in your bannetons to ferment, once they're shaped, they ferment fine at 5 degrees in the fridge, or just less than 5 degrees. So yeah, it will continue to ferment in the fridge. Oh, the leaven. Yeah, so the leaven you would just leave in, so I'm just going to leave it overnight in here. I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to leave it in my Thermomix now, and I'm going to leave it in the kitchen. Love the oven glove clip, so thank you. So I think hopefully that's covered it. Has anybody got any other questions for me? Because if not, I'm going to go and sit down and enjoy my glass of wine, and I'm going to see you again. I think we said 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're going to proceed to stage 3, which is kneading. Well, adding more flour and water first, leaving it to autolyse, adding the salt, kneading, and then shaping. So hopefully that will all be done by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I'm looking forward to seeing your loaves probably around 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Thanks, Gail. Enjoy and good luck.